How's it going, everyone? I'm here with Brad, and we're going to be talking about Once Human, the open world multiplayer survival title from Starry Studio. It's currently in its closed beta, and Brad has played around 15 hours or so, and I want to say his impressions overall have been pretty positive. So, Brad, let's talk about the opening hours of the game. How do you feel it went? Was it exciting? Did it really push you to want to play the game more? How did it go?
So starting out, it kind of just throws you into the world. The best way I can put it is kind of the beginning of Control. It's like you're walking and then a bunch of crazy stuff happens.
Mhm.
You don't really understand it until much later, but you just kind of get thrown into like psionic abilities, and you're like flying through space, and there's a lot of like flashing colors and like weird looking people. So it's somewhat overwhelming in the beginning.
Right.
Um, it it's handholdy for
Oh.
probably 30 45 minutes, and then it's just like good luck. it, it
All
literally
right.
it literally does like a Fortnite drop in. It's like it like you just get thrown in from like outer space, and it's just like land on the map and good luck.
But you get to I'm assuming it's like the early parts of the map, right? Like not like too high of a level or anything like that. Are you dropped with a weapon or no?
Yeah, so you start off with a pistol.
Hmm.
They give you a pistol to begin with, and you literally just drop in. I was uh, I was kind of disheartened because of like just because of how that kind of happened. It just felt kind of jarring because it was just like a bunch of cutscenes and dialogue, and then they're just like, "Good luck, you're like the savior or whatever," and you
but you're
talk to your
but you're really
your
not the savior though, Brad, because because everyone else is in there being the savior as well, right? Because it's an
yeah,
open
yeah,
multiplayer
yeah.
game.
I guess you're just more of a faction of saviors, or you're like you're like the Justice League of people, I guess. Um,
So after you get dropped in, you like who? How do you get missions? Who do you get missions from?
they just kind of start.
Oh,
So the way the map's laid out, there's like different biomes, and like each biome has like a settlement in it. So it starts off like you have like a little demon bird or a little shadow bird, and he goes, "Hey, you should probably go talk to these people because they're probably important." So you
mhm.
go there, they all point their guns at you when you walk up, and then you explain that you're a mayfly, and you're here to do the good things. So they're like, oh, "Okay, cool. We haven't seen a mayfly in forever." You bring in, and then obviously they're like, "Well, there's this giant like spire eh, jetting out of the earth, and we need you to go defeat the mysterious entity that lives, deep underneath the monolith." So that's basically the cycle of the story. It's like you go to the new settlement, you do things around the map to like get the access keys to open up the monolith. You go into the monolith, you fight the boss, and then you just do that over and over. So far, I mean, I would say I'm probably 30% through the content that looks to be available.
Which is a lot,
Which
by
is
the way. which
yeah.
which is pretty
The,
staggering because you showed me the map and you're like, this is where I am so far. And I was wondering if you tried to kind of go past some of those areas on your motorcycle. Have you thought about trying to just drive off in the distance and just kind of see how
um,
far you can go?
I have well, I haven't just like jetted off into the sunset. I have went to a much higher level and just instantly got murdered. So I was like, I'm not going to do that again. Um, but so it looks like it's from like level 1 to 60. I think the last area that I could find was like level 57. So I'm assuming 60 is kind of the cap. But once again, looking at the map, that's only half the map. So either half the map is just for aesthetic purposes, or they haven't finished.
Or there's legitimate content there. Right. I assume each biome is probably going to represent a large boss, and then maybe at the center or like some farther distance away, there's like the actual world boss. Right. I assume so. But right now you're in the closed beta. You said like 1 to 60. You're level what, 22, 23 right now?
Yeah, somewhere in that area.
That's crazy. So let's talk about the survival aspects of the game. Would you consider them in depth, or do you consider them simple enough to where anyone can pick up and play, and it's not going to really kind of push you away from playing the game? Like other games that really emphasize survival aspects. What do you think?
Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't say it's hardcore survival. Like it. There's definitely impacts for not surviving well, right? Do need to drink water. You need to find water sources. And you need to, cook food. Um, you don't just straight out die from hunger or thirst, but it does severely impact your ability to play. Right? If you're completely thirsty, if you have like a 0 thirst meter, or I guess 100 thirst meter, um, you basically can't sprint, and your movement speed is pretty much like halved. Um, or if you're like completely hungry, you do like half melee damage, and you can only you it reduces your carry capacity by like 20%. So it's not super grueling. There have been games that I've played like Valheim
Sons of the
or
Forest.
Sons of the Forests, Ark. Games like that is like it's very number one priority is like staying alive. This one, in this game, it's more about um, making the experience more fun.
Do you find it
In this,
do you find it interesting though that like they don't punish you for like starving or anything like that, like to the point where you're like losing health? I mean, I know that there's an insanity meter, and so with the insanity meter, because you've just been out through this world, like that stardust, like it affects your, ability to kind of if it will affects like the enemies, like the aggro of the enemies, like the amount of them, their level count or whatever. And then I also saw like with the insanity is that it like completely cut your life at one point in half, which
yeah,
I thought was crazy.
yeah.
So
So your sanity meter is, I guess, your third resource that you have to manage other than thirst, hunger. It does so as your sanity goes down, your total life pool also deteriorates. I think once it hits 50%, you actually start getting random random buffs. Like they start throwing things at you, like different things starts happening to your character. I think they're all good. I might be wrong in that assumption, but like different things, there's like a chance every so often that like a some type of condition happens to your character. I typically don't let that happen just because I don't like being at half health forever. And in some of these areas, some of these enemies are quite strong. They do hit pretty hard. So
you did die a lot in some of the footage we had. I think you're like this is like the most I've died in this area. To your credit, you were playing, I think, what, like almost 6, 7 levels above you,
yeah,
right? In
yeah,
that
there
area.
were 4 to 6 levels. There is a pretty heavy level creep. So once you defeat a boss, you kind of move to the next area.
Mhm.
The level jump is 5, 6, 7 levels.
Right.
If you've not properly grinding, enough. If you're trying to experience like all the side quests and like complete all the secondary or like all of the settlements or stronghold objectives, right? I feel like you'll be on pace to kind of flow with the story,
Mhm.
with just going through the story missions. But if you just stick to the story missions, you will be severely underleveled. I think fairly quickly.
Holy shit! Really? That's crazy. That's good though. It kind of incentivizes exploration and just kind of playing the game. Like from what I saw, what you were playing, like it just seems like there's so much stuff to do. Like it's not just like survival stuff, but you had base building. And can you touch on like how the base building works in this game? Because it really seems unique in regards to like how you place your settlement on a server, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, it's very the closest thing that I could like compare it to is Fallout 4, Fallout 76.
Mhm.
Um, you have like a little camp, a little territory marker. You put it down, and it just creates a big circle around that object. So you can build within that circle. They are pretty flexible on what you can build and how you can build it. As long as there's support for it, you can build whatever house. There is like a build limit, obviously.
Mhm.
Um, uh, there's not only is there like the building of structures, there's like power generators, you can attach wires, there's water or rain collector units, there's water purifiers, there's water tanks. You can connect pipes, and you have to pay attention to the gravity of the pipes because water flows down, obviously. So you can't have certain things higher than other things. Like there was some really decent thought into this. There's farming, there's not only weapon crafting but armor crafting, armor improvement. There's attachments. There's
There's
accessories.
gotcha.
Yeah, it's really weird. I actually skipped it for the first like 10 hours of the game. You find a like a magical arcade cabinet, and that's how you roll for weapon blueprints. And I think it's pretty funny. Um,
Is it like so you don't have to pay anything, right? I'm assuming it's just like you have a certain period of time to wait, or how does that work?
so it's more of a seasonal thing. So there's like objectives that you do, and
Oh,
once you
okay.
do these large overarching objectives, kill so many enemies or so many headshots or farm so many crops or whatever. It's typically something you're not going to do like on a daily basis. It's going to be maybe weekly, monthly, or through a full season, and you'll get like a special currency that you roll with. Now, it being closed beta, as far as I know, there's no way to buy it. I wouldn't be surprised if there is a way to, you know, speed up the process. I'm doing air quotes, speed up the process and obtaining that currency. So, but once again, as far as I can see, it's just weapon blueprints. So, um, yeah, it can definitely help with PvP stuff having like legendary weapons,
Mhm.
but as far as like I've not had any issue in the game beside like after the first hour. So until I started building everything, because I went super heavy into building like a massive fortress and like amassing all the materials for everything. Before that, I had one weapon with like 10 things of ammo in a broken melee weapon. So like the first hour was a struggle bus trying to survive. And then I just started crafting thousands and thousands of ammo, and then the caution kind of went out the window.
So there is a way to play to be successful in this game, right? There's
Yeah,
a process. Okay.
yeah. So with almost every survival game, you can over prepare for any challenge, right? And I did that with the second boss. The first boss I kind of struggled with a little bit, probably just because I didn't have optimized gear at the moment. So I went super heavy and like I brought in like 40 healing items and like I crafted 20 grenades and I had a deployable turret and we went into the second boss. We didn't even have a full party. It was just me and one other person. I just didn't want to go in by myself because um, the AI is kind of finicky sometimes. But
Yep. So
uh,
that's a good jumping point to like combat and stuff like that with the boss fights. Can you solo the boss fights, or is that an option?
yeah. So you can hop in at any moment. I in most like intense type of combat scenarios, the AI is either completely ignorant or completely oblivious, as in like they're just not paying attention to existence, or let's say it's like a squadron of Rosetta settlers. They're the like the corporate bad guys of the game. Like if there's 5 or 6 guys with guns and you shoot one of them, all 6 of them are going to immediately snap to your head and fire, without mercy. Um, and like send all their drones and start lobbing grenades like instantly. So it's like some of the zombie encounters are kind of weird because you'll kill 2 or 3 before they even like acknowledge your existence, or you shoot one thing and everything is just absolutely bum rushing you. So it's just so in doing things solo, the fact that you're always the target, right? If there's at least one other person, there's a chance that everything is not going to just absolutely bum rush you.
Okay.
So that was in the first boss fight. We did have a full party of 4. So I mean, it was basically we just spread out around the arena and just kind of nuked him eventually. The second one, it is kind of a timed battle. Like you have a certain amount of there's pretty much a DPS check. You just have to kill him before he becomes invulnerable.
Right.
So uh,
So boss fights are structured differently. There's not just like one set where you're just like straight killing. There's like it's kind of like certain MMOs are like Remnant. Like bosses have you have certain DPS checks. You have things you have to go into cover for. So there's a nice I would say variety when it comes to boss encounters.
yeah, so the first boss had like definite phases. It was
Mm.
like he had a machine gun for phase 1. For phase 2, he jumped out of the arena and summoned a bunch of mobs. Phase 3, he came back with a grenade launcher, right? And then it kind of cycled from there until you killed them. The second one, it was you had to you had to destroy all the uh like destroy all the um little magical arms, so
Right.
he'll drop his invulnerability, and you have 2 minutes to do as much damage as possible, and you can only do it one more time. So you have two chances
Oh,
to completely wipe out his health bar. Um,
oh, what the?
yeah, so like the second one, because we only went in with two people instead of four, I was like, crap, this DPS might not work, but luckily I had a competent teammate, so we actually I think we actually defeated him with probably a minute left to spare.
That sounds exciting. So, like, when it comes to with like combat, what is your what's the best way to describe it? Because from what I see, it's like a combination of like the Division, PUBG, because you could snap into first person on, and is it, can you snap on first person into with any weapon?
Yeah, so it's just a matter of how you aim. So
Mhm.
with mouse and keyboard, if you click the ADS button, it goes into first person. If you hold ADS, it just like does a zoom in over the shoulder.
Okay.
So the game is played in third person. There is that first person aiming mode or ADS, and it really does change. I think it changes the actual recoil pattern. I might be wrong on that, but like doing the over shoulder ADS is like much less accurate than going into first person,
Really?
and and solely because I think it's really stupid when games have inaccurate weapons. So like if you're aiming down the sights and you're firing and the bullets aren't going straight, like there's nothing more like Fallout
They're
does that. If you're inexperienced with that type of weapon, like the bullets will just go in random directions, and I'm like, that's not how guns work.
they're expecting us to battle sight the weapon.
Uh,
Get that battle sight zero. Okay, I mean, yeah. So I really like the way the combat is structured. I'm hoping because it looks like the melee animations are all the same, but that doesn't really matter because combat looks like it's functional. Here's the thing that I've learned watching you play this game is that every system that you've described works. Like there's nothing here that I would say doesn't function in the way it's intended, which is shocking. Does that surprise you so like how
yeah,
well structured this game is? Because I think this game's going to release quarter 3 2024, right? So we're 9 months, 10 months out. But right now you're in this beta, which I thought was going to be like a weekend thing, and then has extended to I think the end of the month. So you're going to get, some people are probably going to get like 30 to 40 to 60 hours into this game already, get some pretty significant progress. But you're here with 15 hours in, and every time I watch you play, you're doing something different, which is crazy because one of the coolest things I've seen you do that you showed me yesterday was like how you can just kind of pull up your motorcycle or your vehicle out of nowhere, and then you're just like on the open road going through terrain. To me,
some
yeah,
some
it was
slapping
some
music too.
yeah some really good music too, which we're also not going to like showcase. But like, no, oh yeah, by the way, how long is it? How big is the radio for this? Like, how many songs do you think there are? Like, there's got to be like 50 to 60,
There's
right? There's so much
I mean,
stuff here.
there's like six radio stations, and they are
Six.
vastly there's a classical, a hip hop, like a K-pop, like a smooth, like
Smooth Jazz 96.5.
yeah, um, and I mean, it's like legit. It's not just like generic elevator music.
I think when
I'm pretty sure
people
they paid some
right.
money to
Oh, they
some
have to. There's no
decent
way.
people.
NetEase had to throw some cash at people. I think what's interesting is that if you're looking at the footage, it's pretty much like an amalgamation of so many different games, right? Clearly, there's like inspiration from the Division. There's inspiration from, Ark. What would Chris say? Like Assassin's Creed, Far Cry type stuff. Like I mean, but
Yeah,
you can teleport, but you have to go like to a certain area to unlock it. To me, it's obviously uh, a game that has a lot of inspiration. Um, what would you say is like the one thing that really separates it, though?
I've never really had a great experience in any MMO that does guns. I just, you know, a lot of shooters that I've played that are multiplayer, it's usually an instanced type dungeon with 4 to 8 people, right? So there's very limited exposure to that mass feel, that MMO feel,
Right.
right? The only other game that I can like really think off the top of my head that's just a MMO experience is it's a game called Defiance, and I did not have a great experience with that game. It was a third person shooter in an open world. There was random world events, and you had machine guns and shotguns and whatnot, and it just felt very clunky. Just the hit registry, it was not very fluid. It was like an MMO, right? It was
Mhm.
in WoW. When you hit something, you don't have to actually hit it, right? You just swing in the air, and
Yeah,
if it
there's a delay.
connects,
Right.
right? It had that feel. This here, I'm playing on servers across there's only West Coast servers, and I'm on the East Coast, or close to the East Coast. So even with that, like, I feel there's definitely moments where it's like, this is definitely an online game, but it really feels like a shooter, right? If I use a sniper rifle and I shoot someone in the head, they react. Typically, they react. Sometimes they don't notice, but it just, the fact that there is this idea that I'm on this ginormous map with other people just randomly running around playing too,
And you can find
and
them, by the way. This is not like the day before.
yeah,
You will see them.
yeah, yeah,
You will
yeah.
see these people.
Um, there is the PVE and PvP aspect as well. So I mean, I think it's really the fact that when you watch the gameplay, or you play the game, and you're like, wow, this, the building feels like Fallout. The crafting feels like the Sons of the Forest, or I guess it's more like the Ark.
Mhm.
The way the skill trees work with the crafting recipes are much more in that vein, right? You're just like, wow, but it works, right? It all fits together.
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy is that when I first watched you boot this up, you were like using telekinesis to throw things at people. Like certain enemies, their heads can detach, and that sounds grotesque, but you can detach it, and then they can be used as a weapon. There's like you have small weapon abilities, quote unquote, where you can pretty much just maximize your DPS or push your DPS up a bit. I'm kind of shocked that like all of these systems work so well, but it's a good example of a game that's pretty much mixing and matching from multiple titles, and everything functions the way it's intended, and nothing feels or looks overbearing. Because I asked you before when you were building your house, I was like, "How's that feel?" And you're like, "It's fine." I asked you about like when you die on a map, like how does it treat? What's the penalty like? And you're like, it's actually not too punishing, which it wasn't, surprisingly. And then I asked you about PvP, or whether or not you can select PvP, PvE, but everything seems so um, smooth, which is kind of surprising in a game with a studio that's practically brand new. Star Studio has no other titles under its name, so I'm kind of shocked that this game came out. And can you tell everyone how you found out about Once Human?
Yeah. So in the weird little time period of the day before, when that was a thing for like 3 days, I was I don't know, I just kind of consumed a lot of content about the day before. I actually bought the game, downloaded it, attempted to play it, didn't was not successful. Refunded it, but I got into the social media frenzy as well, right? And I got into a bunch of Twitter feeds and Reddit posts and whatnot. And one thing I kept seeing over and over was, if you want to play a game that promises everything that the day before promises, but is an actual game, and like you can actually do the things, uh, play Once Human, in their upcoming uh, uh, closed beta. So I signed up literally the day the day before it came out. Um, and I just kept seeing it over and over. I don't know if it was one person posting the same post over, or if it was just a smart PR campaign, like some of the other survival
Oh
games
no, I
did.
think it was brilliant. Yeah, because was it Daisy and Icarus were like showing up there? They did like a collaboration and stuff like that. I just think it's brilliant because you show up to a game that I think announced 2 years ago. Obviously hasn't gotten much hype, but I've seen a number of content creators put out videos for it, and the fact that you're able to play this much, you know what I mean? Like you're getting a lot to this game, you know. The fact that you can farm, you can fish, right? There's a social aspect to it. You can talk to other people in the world. Like it's pretty seamless when you're transferring worlds from what I saw when you were teleporting. I think that what's here is like it's surprisingly well made. It's kind of an example. I think you and I can agree on this of like a live service title or a games as a service that we've wanted to see. Like what we had in Anthem, right? Where the gunplay was great and the traversal was great, It's just everything else kind of fell flat. It feels like here with Once Human, like it's like they've learned from all of the mistakes that have happened, like all the carcasses that they kind of roam past. And like they realize, like, you have all these different strongholds, you have these different settlements, you have these different missions, you have, diverse bosses. And they're, by the way, the enemy variety in this game is pretty insane. Like, I was shocked to see that much stuff on screen. I was like, what is that? Like, you fought like a crab that explodes or a spider that explodes, and you had like this floating brain that heals or buffs enemies. You had an enemy that looked like it was straight out of Remnant. I feel like this is going to be, and I'm hoping it's not like a sleeper hit. I feel like this is going to be a massive hit.
I hope this one does well because I've thoroughly enjoyed what I've played so far. It just it's one of zombies. Zombies kind of get saturated
Yeah.
at some point. So if once again if they do good marketing like they've been doing, and they keep making good content, I don't see why this would not at least be on people's radar.
So let's talk about like let's kind of wrap it up here. What would be your favorite part of the beta so far? What would be the one standout thing for you?
Probably the boss fights. So when I started playing the game, I really I kind of felt that mobile game feel. Like
Mm.
it started off very static. It was just they drop you in a world, you walk from point A to point B, you talk to someone, you go to the next place, you pick up a weapon, you kill a deer, you go to the next place, you fall through a portal, you land in another world, right? And then I struggled for an hour trying to figure out what I needed to do next, like what was the best, because I didn't have any, like any clothes for like the first 45 minutes. So like once I figured things out, and then I made it to the first boss. When I played that first boss, I was like, holy crap! Like there's actual, like, there's a progression of like um scale, right? Because everything I'd fought up to that point were just like sleeper zombies, or there was a weird zombie with a briefcase as a head, and you can take his head and use it as a rocket launcher or a grenade launcher. That was kind of weird, but it was just like I was just killing zombie after zombie until I got to the first boss, and then it was like now I'm fighting a giant skeleton. I don't know if it's a skeleton, like a large, a gargantuan body with a minigun as a hand, or as an arm.
Look like an
And
enemy out of Doom. I like the
yeah,
remake
yeah.
of Doom and stuff like that.
So yeah, so I would probably just the progression of it so far. It has kind of stalled out, and I say stalling out is the progression is kind of slowed down. Right, hitting like level 20, it's like I know I need to start grinding a little bit more to kind of keep up with kind of gear levels, if you will. To be a little bit more competitive against enemies. I can get swarmed a bit easier, but I'm also playing solo 90% of the time. So having a friend playing. um,
I didn't get access yet, man. Chill.
um, and I think it has a lot of potential. I know we talked a little bit about the social aspect, but there's guilds and there's war bands, and you can, like, the war bands can like fight for territory, and get like special resources and whatnot. So I feel like I haven't even experienced the best parts yet, like the pieces that probably make it the most unique.
Most people that I've seen, most notes I've seen, people are really, really digging this game, and I really hope it's successful because this is a type of new IP that can probably show you that you can mix and match these different systems and have them work really well together. I think that's going to do it for this video, Brad. Thanks for coming on and explaining
Oh
how
yeah,
Once Human worked. I know that you're probably going to hop off and probably play that game again. I don't know when it's
I'm already playing it
closing.
right now. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know when the beta is actually closing, but I do know that the Discord is very active. And if you're interested in like checking out their Discord and checking out their videos, do so. But man, there's a lot of content here. And it's very shocking. So if you like the content, please consider like, sharing, and subscribing. I'm Ken. That's Brad. We'll talk to you next time.